Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sabrina and I also go by Skelly Studios everywhere. So if you want to find me, that's how you can do it. So I've got a market coming up at the end of September. If you're a part of my email list, you already would have been notified. If you haven't joined yet, you should. It's linked down in the description. But yes, I have a market coming up at the end of September. It's my very first one of 2025. So I am stoked. I have already started doing some of my market prep, which you will see in the coming weeks here. But for this week, for today's video, since markets are on the mind, I thought it would be kind of fun to go through the journey that is me doing markets, the impact that it's had on me as a human a little bit, but also just maybe some tips and tricks along the way. I am still learning, I am still growing and evolving in doing markets, and I'm not doing these huge conventions or anything at this point. One day we'll get there, but as of right now, that's not where I'm at yet. Also, I need to show you before I start gabbing. Look at my mushroom shirt. Isn't it so freaking cute? Anyway, okay, let's dive in. So the very first market that I did was in November of 2023. My best friend and booth buddy, Amber, had encouraged me a lot to apply to a couple of markets before even this one. She had sent this one and it was kind of like, please just apply. And so I applied. And within a couple of days, I got accepted. That was a very scary thing for me. And I think it was so scary because, truth be told, I didn't think I was even gonna get in, but then I did. So there was a little bit of panic to start getting all of my products together. There was that. But the other reason is that I had not yet really seen myself creating a business around my art. I wanted to work markets. I wanted to be in art shows. I wanted all of these different things, but I never thought any of them would actually happen for me. And so I wasn't really viewing myself as a business. I was only viewing myself as like this online creative that just shares her art, right? I didn't really take myself seriously or my art seriously, or even the idea of the life that I wanted to live seriously. I was just kind of stuck in that limbo of dreaming and hoping and wanting instead of action and doing the things to get myself there. So even applying for that market was my first action step towards making that dream my reality. And it was terrifying. I showed up to the market and my expectations were on the ground. I did not anticipate or expect that I was going to make any money at that market whatsoever. I didn't think I was going to get any attention whatsoever. And then I did. I had made, I think it was $120, something like that, which I know, groundbreaking. But earning money from doing something that I love, that alone didn't do all of the heavy lifting, but it did kind of change my perspective a little bit. The thing that really kind of put me on the trajectory that I'm on now was the face-to-face interactions that I had that woke me up and made me see that my art is valuable to people other than just to me. It kind of created this ripple effect in my life. That one cheap small town little market had completely changed everything for me, which sounds really silly, but that's what happened. It made me realize that my dreams can become my reality, but it's not going to happen if you don't take any steps towards it, which I know is like common sense, but for me it was just like, oh, those dreams are over there and I'm over here, and there's no way for me to get from here to there because my art sucks, I suck, nobody's gonna buy my stuff even if I try, I'm never gonna be able to do any of those things. And I mean, even me being here on YouTube with you right now is another ripple effect from that very first market. So, hi. So now that I had had that experience of working that market and feeling all of the feelings, that directly led me into doing what I did in 2024. At the beginning of that year, I had told myself that I wanted to really figure out if working markets was for me. That first market did a lot of the heavy emotional lifting, but now I needed to figure out if this was the kind of space that I wanted to be in. Working markets would kind of give me the opportunity to really figure out if I wanted to bring my art to that level. And what I mean by that is, did I want it to become my job? Did I want it to be a business, or did I just want to be a hobby artist? And there's nothing wrong with being a hobby artist. I don't say that with any kind of negativity around that at all. Did I just want it to be a me thing, or did I want to turn it into my job? So there was all of that kind of happening in the background, and working markets kind of gave me the opportunity to see with very little risk if that was the path I wanted to go down. So let's talk a little bit about the things that I learned, the wins, the losses that I kind of encountered over 2024, and also how I evolved and I grew over that year. So my first market of the year was at the end of May, and that's when I kind of started diving into making stickers, discovered I love making stickers. Peep my last couple of videos where I make a ridiculous amount of them. But yeah, I hadn't really invested a whole lot of money up until that point. I was just trying to kind of like dip my toe, get into the environment, kind of figure out if this is somewhere that I wanted to be. So once I had that figured out and I knew that this was something I wanted to continue doing, I knew that it was time for me to start investing money into it. One of my biggest tips with markets is do as many of them as you can that are cheap or free. Don't spend too much money on your displays. Do the simple DIY thing. Don't spend too much money on anything until you have figured out if it's the space for you. I've seen a couple of other creators and other vendors that I've met at these events who have poured hundreds of dollars into their very first market and then discovered this is not something that they like to do. And then they're sitting on a bunch of stuff. Just kind of like test the waters and see if it's right for you. But yeah, since I had that figured out, I started investing a little bit more money into my displays. So I got like a little palette box for a checkout, I got a grid wall, and I got a nice tablecloth. And that was the money that I invested. Actually, my very first video on YouTube is me getting ready for that very first market. So if you want to watch my very first video on YouTube, it's in the cards up here. I've also never done this before, so hopefully it works, but that's my very first video. We're almost coming up on a year. Crazy. Anyways. So yeah, I started investing some more money into my displays, and then I got to the market. So my booth fee for that market was 180 Canadian dollars, and I hadn't quite earned back that booth fee by the end of the market, but I realized it was because I was missing out on sales because I didn't have a card reader to collect debit and credit. That was the next thing that I needed to invest in. So I ended up buying the little $80 square card reader, and I also started expanding my products. Yeah, so it was just kind of finding new ways to display my products, new ways to offer my products, and just kind of started growing myself as a business. Around that time also, I think it was at the very beginning of September of 2024 is when I registered my business, and I started going down that path of really defining myself as a business and finding ways of taking my art and creating products out of them. So that's kind of like how I grew. It didn't come overnight. It didn't come from one market to the next to the next. It was a very slow progression over the course of 2024, and working so many markets allowed me to get more comfortable in those spaces, how to interact with people in that kind of professional business, but also casual kind of way. Yeah, so I feel like it really grew my skills and my confidence in working these markets, and I plan on working so many markets for the rest of my life. I love them. But anyway, I did, however, have quite a few losses in 2024, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because this is a very real thing that can happen. So I had this market in the middle of summer. I was super excited about it. Online, there seemed to be a lot of interest. So this market cost me about $100, and I was excited. I showed up, I set up. It was going to be a very long day and nobody showed up. This event again was in the middle of the summer and it was hosted on a sunflower farm. Super cool. I was so excited to go to the sunflower farm because I've never been to one before, and it was extremely hot. It was melt your skin off hot. And so because it was so hot, nobody showed up. I had made $15 of sales, and that $15 came from the other vendors. So it was like by midday, nobody showing up to the event. All of the vendors were kind of looking at everybody else's stuff, and we bought from each other. I think a couple of us traded some stuff too. Just like, I want that, you want this, let's just trade it. And yeah, so that market was a complete bust. And I think something that's super important, especially for people that are starting out in doing markets, in being in art shows, in any kind of capacity where you're doing an in-person event, trying to sell your stuff, is first of all to manage your expectations. You might show up to the market and run out of stock and make so much freaking money. That could happen. But don't go into a market with the mentality that you are there to earn money. My biggest suggestion is to go into a market looking at it as an opportunity to learn about yourself and to have this experience. And when you shift your perspective of looking at it like it's an experience, that booth fee is worth it even if you make $0 because you were there for the experience. It's the same kind of thing as paying the money to go to the aquarium or to go to a concert or some kind of event. You're paying that money for an experience rather than paying that money in order to make money. Having that perspective from the get-go has been instrumental in me getting to the place that I am now. Now I'm starting to think of this being as a business opportunity, of me going to make money. At the very base, it's still the experience for me, but now I am starting to think of it more as a business because I'm now at the point of trying to grow my business. I have more direction. I'm applying to markets with a little bit more intention and where I'm going, what kind of atmosphere the market has, etc., etc., etc. This year, I haven't really participated in a whole lot of markets. As I briefly mentioned before, there was some other goals that I was working towards this year. I think the most important one out of them being that I wanted to start participating in art shows. I will have worked 4 markets this year. I wish it was more than that because I love them so much. But I was able to learn about myself that I definitely like doing art shows, and it's not an either or situation. I'm gonna go forward doing both of them, but I need to focus on the markets more because I just love them so much. So next year, that's something I'm gonna prioritize more. I do have some long-term goals when it comes to doing markets. So I'm just kind of starting to expand and work outside of my small little area and the surrounding small little areas. But I think in like the next 5 years or so, I would like to participate in bigger events like festivals, for instance. I feel like it would be so much fun to work a 3-day festival. And another thing is, this year, for the very first time, I went to the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair, which is essentially a market for original art. And I think it would be so much fun to go and work that at some point. I don't know if that's something I'll apply for next year or if it's something that is going to be a couple of years away in the future, but that's kind of like an art show and a market made a baby. That's tough to me. So that's something I definitely think I'll be doing in the next couple of years, and where I intend to go and how I intend to grow and how my products will change and the kinds of things that I want to bring to markets. I have a lot of different plans of different products that I'd like to make in the future, and I'm so excited to continue down this road. Anyway, I think that's everything. I don't know if it's everything, but I think it's everything. Of course, if you have any questions or you're looking for some advice or anything like that, definitely leave it down in the comments. I don't know everything, but I will absolutely try to help in any way I can. And yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me as per usual. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate a like, a subscribe, any of the things to help out the channel. It would mean the world to me. But yeah, I hope you have a kick-ass week until I see you next time. All right, I love you. Goodbye.